I stopped asking, is this on sale? And started asking myself this instead when I was looking at buying some things. Hi, friends, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jen. I'm glad you're here. In this video, I am going to talk about cost per use of items and what you can use that for, what is you probably shouldn't necessarily use that method for, and how it can help you declutter, stop spending, and shop more intentionally. So at its very core, basic, cost per use equals the cost of the item divided by the amount of times you use it. So if something costs you $10, but you only use it one time, it costs $10. Whereas if something costs you $50 and you use it 10 times, it only costs you, $5 per use. This method can be used for everyday type of items, such as shoes, clothing, kitchen gadgets, supplies that you would use for like a hobby or something like that. Also, subscriptions. This would be a good way to look at your subscription usage. And like I had said, you look at how much something costs and then you divide it by the amount of uses that you've used for it, or used it. I can't even remember anything that I bought all that recently. I could say it gives me too hard of a dollar amount. But say I pay $15 a month for my Audible subscription, but I use that subscription nearly every day. I listen to audiobooks almost every single day when I go to work because I no longer pay for Sirius XM or Pandora. So I, just either listen to the straight up radio or listen to commercials on Pandora, or I listen to Audible, and that's generally, that's every single day I use that item. So if you take that $15, divide that by 30, whatever that is the cost per use for that particular subscription. Another thing that I like to look at things as a cost per use would be something like shoes or articles of clothing. If I'm going to go buy something, I want to make sure that I really like it and that I'll actually wear it. If I was going to buy something that was just a regular plain old cheapy t-shirt, and if it's not really of good quality but it doesn't cost very much, but then I only wear it once because I don't, it turns out it doesn't fit good, or I wear it a couple times and it starts getting holes in it or it falls apart. That's really not very cost effective to buy something cheap like that and just have it, not very many uses out of it. If I paid $20 for something and I only wore it once or twice, that's really not much use out of something. Whereas, I've bought a pair of boots and I wear them nearly at least once or twice a week. Cost per use is a good way to look at items, to help you from overspending. You don't really want to use cost per use to justify just buying expensive things. It's not an excuse for it's not an excuse to overspend. It's not an excuse to hang on to clutter. If you really use the item, it's not going to be clutter. It's going to be something that's useful to you. Using a cost per use method is not for every single thing that you have in your home either. You wouldn't want to use a cost per use for stuff that is seasonal decor or carries an emotional weight to it. I use this cost per use method when I'm looking at purchasing replacement items for stuff that is ratty and worn and needs to go away. I'll use it for a decluttering decision, whether or not I use a particular item. I mean, recently I went through, I regularly go through items in my house and declutter small chunks at a time. Recently I went through my closet, and I was like, I've gone through my closet many times, and I was like, okay, so next time I'm going to have to think about looking at these particular shirts right here. I went and looked at the shirts, and I was like, well, who knows how much this thing cost? I've had it forever, but I don't wear it. So if it costs me a lot of money, it's just sitting here. So I ended up donating it. And like I had said, cost per use is not a reason to hold on to clutter. It's a gauge for when you're going to buy something. And I guess, the thing is, if something costs you a lot of money and you don't necessarily use it too often, maybe you could try using it more frequently. Is that even correct terminology? Try using it more frequently and see if the item brings you joy, if you really need to use it. And that can be, it might be an expensive item that you paid for a while ago, but if you're not using it, then, the cost per use is pretty high. And at this point in time, you've already paid for it. So, you could look at it as, this item, cost me $50, but I'm only using it once. So it's a $50 item. Can I declutter it? And once you get rid of it, if you need to bring something else into your household, look at something that you will use more often. Stuff that has multi-uses for it would be a good thing to look at to replace something, because then if it has a multi-use, then you're going to get more use per cost out of that item. And I found that items that cost a lot but you don't use them very much, you can feel a little guilty getting rid of them. And I say, seasonal decor, to not use it for that. I've got a bunch of candle supplies that at one point in time, a long time ago, I did one of those, I think they're now called pyramid schemes. I got into one of those businesses where I was selling candles. Even though as a consultant, I was able to get the candles at cheaper rates, I still bought them, and they still counted as business expense at one point in time. But I still have a bunch of those, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, they were expensive items. They were quite expensive, and they're very nice, high quality items, but I don't use them. And every time I try to look at them and declutter, and it's like, I was like, but they were expensive. I need to think about, if this item cost me X amount of dollars and I'm not using it, it's just sitting here taking up space, I might as well get rid of it. I mean, the money I spent on that item was well over 20 years ago. The things are in great condition. So, there's something you can do. I can put them on Marketplace and see if they sell. And if they don't sell within a certain time frame, I'll donate them. When you're using the cost per use method, a common mistake to avoid is to look at a future value of the item. So I have a lot of friends that do this. They will go and they will buy something that does not fit them because they're planning on losing weight. Do you have friends that do that? I have friends that do that. And I don't know that I've necessarily particularly bought items because I'm planning on losing weight or anything like that. I've held on to items that I've had because, at some point in time, I'm going to fit back into my high school jeans or something along those lines. That is a common mistake to avoid. If the item doesn't fit you now, you're paying for it and you're getting zero use for that cost. Don't look at it and say, oh, I'm going to fit into this someday. That's a lot of money to be putting into something for someday. You want to see what you're doing today. You want that item to be able to fit you today. You want cost per use today. Cost per use isn't about justifying expensive purchases. It's about buying intentionally and wasting less, knowing what's coming into your house, knowing that you're going to use the item. That's the whole point of cost per use, is knowing that you're going to use this item and it's going to bring value to your life. That is what cost per use is all about. Let me know in the comments if you guys have ever used the cost per use method to look at your purchases or to help you determine whether or not you should declutter something. I thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like this video, please hit the like button and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. See you next time.